to be an accountant. He's has a master's in accounting. We hired him out of college, and then we
Okay,
have an outside accountant, um, accounting firm that does our accounting numbers.
cool.
So I'm not unhappy with the way that works, but I hate using the desktop version of QuickBooks because we have a remote way to get in, but it's such a pain, and if two people are on, it's slow, and so
Yeah.
trying to move over to using Zero over the next year. Probably it'll end up just being at the end of the year, just to make life easier. We'll just do a switch. So been looking at that, and then the bigger issue I have is we have a lot of customers for Ship Hero who use Zero and
Mhm,
QuickBooks,
mhm.
and I really just wanted to learn what issues people are having and kind of what they're doing and how they're solving it, because I hear that from my Ship Hero customers as well. So just learn more about what challenges other businesses are facing, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
And Guy, I don't know if Guy might be having some technical difficulties.
He's on mute.
Yeah, and I saw another.
Oh yeah, he left.
Yeah,
Joined and
so I
left.
don't know. So let's not wait for Guy. If he comes back, great.
Are you?
Um,
Did you start the recording?
I did, yeah. So if you want to do a quick intro, Scott, please
Sure.
feel free.
Hi, I'm Scott Scharf. I am the co-founder of Catching Clouds. Catching Clouds, we provide outsourced cloud accounting services for e-commerce and online businesses. So this is the only business area that we focus on. My partner's my wife. She's the CPA and MBA and oversees our accounting team. And then I've been in IT for 30 plus years. So I focus on specifically not only helping e-commerce businesses succeed in doing some consulting, but really focus on kind of the technology and the integration to automate the processes, not only for our own bookkeepers, but for our clients. I do a lot of consulting back to Zero. I'm on their partner advisory council. Both my wife and I talk about our influencers in the cloud accounting space, blogging for Zero, on Sleater, and a number of other areas. And then I also consult back to a variety of the cloud inventory tools and tax tools. I've done consulting for Avalara, TaxJar, Vertex, to get them to build better solutions that actually work, okay, that actually flow the data and make sense, both from a data technical product perspective, but also from a accounting data flow perspective. It's amazing. I talked to some of these cloud inventory companies, and they don't have any accountants that have ever looked at their product. Okay, so it's so important to pull in cost of goods sold and inventory and process. So that's really what we do. We really focus on providing that outsourced accounting department for e-commerce companies when they're ready. Typically, companies that are over 50K per month. And then I spend a lot of time doing research on whether it's warehouses and how to outsource and integration. I spend a lot of time looking at EDI and other integrations to both write blogs and help our existing clients and our future clients. So I'll stop there and just happy to answer any questions that you guys have about Zero versus QuickBooks or cloud inventory or process or sales tax or whatever. If you get any detailed accounting specific questions, my wife Patty will join me in about 15 minutes or so when she's done with some continuing professional education. But I'm happy to be a resource. I've been trying to find enough time to really jump in and catch any comments on Zero or any other accounting ones and just provide that kind of practical guidance, because we do that for anybody we talk to, whether they call as a referral or I'm blogging or I'm teaching other accountants about shopping carts and marketplaces and what e-commerce businesses care about and don't care about, all that fun stuff.
Great. So, Guy, are you able to hear us? Are you all squared away now? Maybe not. All right. Do you want to, Aaron, do you want to maybe start with any kind of, I know you kind of started to touch on some of the issues you were having. Do you want to kind of kick things off for a question for Scott?
Well, I think a lot of the questions I actually have for Scott would be more stuff that I should probably pay him for, more on my B2B business side. So yeah, I don't really want to kind of take up everyone's time with stuff about zero integrations that will probably bore everyone else.
Well, I can talk.
What's that?
Hit me with the question. Let me get the short version. Let's get the first question out. I'll tell you to
Sure.
begin with.
So talking to Zero,
Mhm.
sales tax.
Mhm.
They want sales tax to be a zone for every customer has sales tax zones, I guess, right? And they want every order to be assigned to a sales tax zone.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how
but
most accountants don't integrate in with an Avalar or a sales tax calc. Do it that way, including shopping carts.
Okay, so what happens is I get an order from, let's say my customer's on BigCommerce, right? Order comes in, I get a sales tax line. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily get, I'm using BigCommerce as an example, but I
Mhm.
don't necessarily get any detail as to what that is for. I just know sales tax, $8,
Correct.
right? Now Zero says, well, that's got to, if I try to turn that into just a zone without knowing any detail, it could be like this particular order is New York and it's clothing and that's why it's that rate. Or
Okay, so let me talk about sales tax. What you don't want to do is do sales tax in Zero. You want to use a tool like TaxJar. Are you familiar with TaxJar?
Mhm.
So TaxJar is set up, and I talk to those guys a lot, is what it'll do is it'll pull all of that granular data from both the shopping carts they integrate with, or we have a number of clients that we pull data from other shopping carts and marketplaces and import that into TaxJar in the first few days. TaxJar is set up to pull in the ship to, ship from, where you have Nexus, and really look at all of that information. What we use, all we do for any of the order and revenue we get from clients, we get, whether we do it per order or batches weekly or monthly, all we do is take all the sales tax from all the channels into Zero when we're recording the top line income. So we record the income, shipping income, any returns if we have it, and then the sales tax just as a big blob of liability. So when you look in Zero, you can see that I owe $3,000 in sales tax the next time I pay sales tax, or up to this date. And that's all you want to expect from Zero, including, and I can't talk about a lot of it, but including when they come out with updates to do sales tax better in the next few months, it won't make any difference to that. If you want to look at a way to be able to see how everything's broken out by county or by tax code or
No, I don't need that. No. So I don't need that. You're talking about a level more complex than I need. So basically, if you go into our system and you generate sales tax, we look at sum total of everything that's shipped during the period, make sure it didn't ship previously, and then we take the percentage of that order that was shipped, if it wasn't shipped complete, and assign that percentage of sales tax to that period. We take any returns that had sales tax, we subtract that out, and that's how we get a number. I'm happy with that. The question is, I want to push, so I got to push data to Zero, and Zero says I can't push to Zero that sales tax is just $8.50.
You can't. Just do another line on the invoice that says.
Just do another line item. Yeah, that's what they said. That's okay.
That's the way to do it. I'm talking to their product team that's building sales tax. All you do is another line and assign it to the right accounting code. Ignore their tax calculation. Just do no tax on the tax column in the invoice, and just ignore tax. You just want to push it into one liability account.
Okay, that's exactly what they said. That's just like drove my sense of neatness, I don't know, something crazy to not use the sales tax for sales tax, but fine. If they said it, you say it, fine. That's what we'll do. Yeah. All right. I took enough of your time. I'll let the next person go.
Sure enough. Well, no, I gave you some background around sales tax too. Next.
I'll take a quick question, Scott. So this is actually funny. I was thinking about Nexus, and I'm going to put Laura on the spot here. We're talking about sales tax. Laura, of course, works for the company as a telecommuter out of Maine, incorporated in Montana. Does that mean e-commerce fuel is incorporated under the same umbrella as my e-commerce business? Does that mean that we need to be collecting sales tax and paying sales tax to any orders we ship to Maine?
Yes.
Oh, really?
So employees, or including traveling sales reps. So no, well, hold on. It means by the letter of the law, you have Nexus in Maine, and if they audited, so you're probably already paying payroll tax, right? So when you set up your employment stuff, you set that up. It's possible, but most of the government agencies don't talk to each other to tell, hey, there's somebody else you should audit for sales tax. So So the answer is yes. Significant presence, so where you're registered as a company, where you have physical property, where you have employees, and that includes if you have traveling sales reps that are traveling up and down and going visiting 8 different states, you have nexus in all of those states. And where you have inventory, including wherever your warehouse is, you own the inventory at a 3PL warehouse or at all 15 or 15 plus Amazon warehouses, states, you have nexus. Now that's the first piece, the letter of the law. Then it becomes a risk management decision as to whether or not you collect and file, okay? So if you look at your history of sales into Maine, okay, and you look at the tax rate, and let's say you're going to owe $300 in tax, okay, for the year. Well, if you outsource, you don't do it yourself, it's going to cost, on average, $100 for somebody to register you in that state. And then the absolute cheapest rate for anybody to do it, faster than you can do it yourself, is $20 per filing with TaxJar if they auto-file in that state. So that's $240. So I'm at $340. It's going to cost you more just to comply than you're going to actually collect in sales tax. You can easily, as a business, say, I'm choosing not to. Now, if you're audited, they might disagree, but it's only if you're audited it becomes an issue. And then you can decide, well, if I owe less than $1,000, I'm not going to register in that state. So I have this conversation with Amazon FBA sellers. Now I run into people that are, so the basics are, first, yes, it generates Nexus. If you were audited, they would say yes. Okay, from the time she started, you hired her or set up as an employee in that state for that piece. From you as a business, you can make a risk management decision on the chances of you being audited. And if it's below $1,000, you can say, look, it was immaterial to my business. I wasn't going to take the time or whatever else. And they'll go, well, okay, you should register going forward. That could be the worst piece, depending on the auditor. So there is a balance of a risk management decision, but you should always be compliant in the state that you've registered in and where at least your main offices and main company are.
Wonderful, super helpful, thanks. And then what kind of, and obviously it probably varies by state, but ballpark, what kind of penalties are you looking at if you have to pay sales tax and you get audited?
It's 50% more. It's typically for fines and penalties, it's 50% more. So if you owe $1,000, you owe about $1,500. Now, using a tool like TaxJar, and I've asked them to add a column, but I helped them build this. There's a sales tax liability or detailed analysis. You mark all the states that you potentially have Nexus in, or you have Nexus in, and it'll show you how much your sales are. You can list the date that you started Nexus, like the date you first sold out of Amazon, or the date you first hired somebody there, or the first date you did a warehouse, and it'll ignore all the stuff prior to that, and it'll show you how much sales tax you should have collected. And that's a great way to watch to say you're there. We've had people that they've been doing millions of dollars worth of business on Amazon. We run all their data, and they owe $300,000 in sales tax they didn't know about, $150K to California, $150K to California. And when you get above typically $10,000 or $20,000 in sales tax liability to a state, then you either do what most everybody does, which is I'm not going to do anything, or they register and collect going forward and just ignore the past and look at if they want to get audited. Or if you're really concerned or looking to sell your business, because that's a huge liability, someone will audit your business and say, hey, you have this huge sales tax liability, I'm not going to buy your business. Then you can do what's called a voluntary disclosure agreement. So you go to a sales and tax SALT attorney, you tell them, you show them all the data, they go to the state and say, hey, I have this anonymous seller that wants to come clean and register, here's what we think they owe. In a lot of cases, they can negate the fines and penalties, so you would only owe the $1,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever. Unfortunately, in most cases, they want that money up front. They'll agree to not fine you anything, but they want all that money, and it comes out of your own profits from the past because you weren't collecting it. Because otherwise, sales tax isn't too horrible. You just have to pay for the compliance part. That's to collect the sales tax, keep track of it, and give it back to the state. Okay? And that can be an incremental cost, but when you don't collect it, kind of grows.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks a ton.
You're welcome. Guy, didn't you have some questions about infrastructure and Xero versus QuickBooks? Do you want to jump into that? Oh, wait, I lost him. I just saw him.
He's missing now. Matthew does have a question.
Scott, are there any concerns you should be worried about if, let's say, you have like a contract employee in the Philippines, like a virtual assistant, Other than giving a 1099 out, is there any other considerations?
Nope.
Okay.
You just want to keep track, and if you pay them via PayPal or I think credit card, then you don't have to do a 1099. Or if they're their own corporation.
If they're not a citizen of the U.S., do you have to give them a 1099?
Yeah, well, no, if they're not, no, they don't have a tax ID. Plus the other part is if they're not a U.S. citizen, you don't have to give them a 1099 either. Because they don't have a social security number or a federal tax ID to put on the form. Nope, they're just services for your business. You don't have to worry about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other tips or ideas of anything better than Stitch Labs to sync store data between like BigCommerce, Shopify, and Xero?
Yeah, so if you've seen my post, and I'm happy to share it, just email me, scott@catchingclouds.net. I've got a matrix where I've compared, I'm at about 15 or 20 cloud inventory solutions, and what I've got them mapped is both on the big functionality. I've got a bunch of real detail as to whether or not they'll do drop shipping or EDI integration, but the big things I have are which accounting products they integrate with, and then which marketplaces and which shopping carts they integrate with. So you can look at your mix of shopping carts and platforms and figure out the right fit. So there's a bunch. It just depends on what you're doing. So Shopify's okay, and I've got a number of clients on Shopify. I've got a great relationship with them, but they went through some growing pains last year when they did that big upgrade, and they're going through some growing pains again now. So I like them, and I think it's a nice product, but it's not optimal for everything. So I'm currently converting an apparel company that we had that Stitch just couldn't cut it over to CIN7, CIN7, and they do a great job of matrices on colors and sizes and are really optimized and have a built-in point of sale. Another comparable product that's similar to, or in the same kind of space, is TradeGecko. If you're looking more at warehouse management, SKU Vault is good. They all have a little bit of evolution to go through depending on what your needs are. And then there's some bigger boys like, shoot, I'm blanking on all of them. Sales Warp is a little bit on the higher end, but is really weak reporting. But they provide kind of a mix. They're really good if you don't want to go to Channel Advisor, but you want an integrated listing tool. Also, SKU Vault's really strong if you're already on Channel Advisor. So it's got the best integration to Channel Advisor. If you're already on Channel Advisor, it gives you warehouse management, but they're weak on other areas. Another area I'm focusing in on are drop ship. If you do a lot of drop ship where you don't own anything, so every order is a drop ship, Duoplane, if you don't hold really any inventory, Duoplane is a really nice solution. They have a great vendor portal, and they do some really great stuff along those lines. There are some other big boys like Linworks is a pretty comprehensive solution, and they're going to release a full cloud version later this spring, and that I think they're going to be a key player. So there's kind of a high-level overview, but when I look at clients, I'm like, okay, are you purely product? Are you doing your own warehouse? Are you working with a 3PL? Are you mostly drop ship? Do you have any inbound customer orders, B2B orders? So anybody that's talking to a Zappos or a Walmart or has closed a direct deal with a major retailer, you're going to want that EDI integration. And I can tell you most of those tools don't integrate with EDI, but I've been playing matchmaker and linking Logic Broker and Crossfire EDI and other guys to each of these cloud inventories, so they all have that capability. So, but I'm happy to share that matrix with you, and if you want to have a point call and go through your own requirements, my big requirements are that's in the cloud. It generates a purchase order, so it provides that purchase ordering structure of process on owners, because then one, you do reorder limits and it reminds you to order stuff. Two, you capture the costs at the time you order the product, okay? Because otherwise, all the rest of your reports on cost of goods sold, inventory on hand, and profitability per SKU, all that stuff goes out the window if you don't have the cost per SKU, okay? And then the next piece it has to have is the ability to pull out cost of goods sold and inventory on hand, preferably in the past or a reasonable way, so we can pull that into the accounting. And then it should work well for the clients, for them to receive products quickly, for them to push updates, and then work with all their shopping carts.
No, that's perfect. I really appreciate that you kind of hit on everything that I'd be looking for, so appreciate that.
Sure, sounds good. And then TradeGecko is really good if you have any international currency. They all need a little more work when it comes to really enhancing of the way they work with Amazon FBA. And then you still end up looking at a tool like Inventory Lab or Metrics if you really want more analytics, because they're all trying to add more analytics and they're getting better at it, but they'll do those other core functions depending on what you want to do.
I think that what this gets frustrating is I feel like I have to piecemeal together like 50 SaaS apps to get what I really want, done. And it just gets like frustrating paying, $50 to all these different companies just for essentially one function you need.
Yeah, and you're starting to see some consolidation. So we went through this evolution of apps where all of our phone apps, everybody created a point app, and now they're all kind of coming together where a point app might be okay for a personal thing. I'm a big believer in finding the best of breed tools. Okay, so if you're all big enough, you can go to NetSuite and it'll do it all. Okay, NetSuite's going to cost you 30 to 50 grand just for the software for the year, and then it's a huge complex tool. But if you're at 20 million plus and you want to go public, that's where you want to be. But for the rest of us that want the best of breed, you can get Xero, which in my opinion is the better cloud accounting solution. And they are releasing inventory next week. You'll see my name on a bunch of press release stuff because I gave them a bunch of quotes. Even though it won't work for any e-commerce businesses at this level, it's just basic inventory. And then you can find TaxJar is a great tax tool. And then you find a cloud inventory tool, and that's we only work with TaxJar. We only work with Xero. And then the cloud inventory, I don't want to work with 20 or 50 different cloud inventory tools. I want to have 4 or 5 core and have multiple clients on multiple ones and then push them all to be better, okay? But then you're right, you could have a different repricer, but Inventory Lab just added a repricer, okay? And so, you're going to see this consolidation. And Ecom Hub will do shipping between different platforms, and now Stitch Labs will do that too. And you're going to start seeing some more of this consolidation of functionality depending on what you want to do. But you don't want to make a big switch like a cloud inventory more than like once a year, but you might. There might be enough evolution and changes that there might be a much better product that's either evolved to work better for you or your business has moved towards. You've gone more B2B or you've gone drop ship and you need something else.
Great. Guy, are you able to chat, Guy? Otherwise, I'll just type in Guy's questions because he had a few really good ones.
Yeah, shoot. I mean, I can read the ones he has off of Aka's posts earlier too.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry I missed half of the Hangout. My computer just I missed the part of the inventory management, and I'm currently in the process of moving from QuickBooks Pro to a cloud solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm contemplating between QuickBooks Online and Xero. And I tend to choose QuickBooks Online mainly because of the option that they have for inventory management, which I haven't found in Xero, and I know that you probably talked about it when I was away, but I'll be happy to hear why not, because I saw your face.
Let me jump in, and my better half and the brains behind the organization, my wife Patty, who's the accountant and CPA, is here. Well, God, let me answer that. So we'll start with QuickBooks versus Xero. Okay, first, full disclosure, we are totally biased towards Xero. Okay, we blog for them. They're actually taking us to San Francisco to film the video with one of our clients. So we love them, but we've been working with them for 3 years. Okay. For a number of reasons. So one, it's better technology. From an accounting perspective, Patty's certified on QuickBooks back to versions in the 1800s, okay? Like 50 different versions, okay? And there's some of those are still in use, okay? And she is like wicked fast at this stuff and is 5 times faster in Xero. As an accountant, she loves it. I am not an accountant, and I can get in and understand it's simplified. They get rid of all the fluff where QuickBooks, including QuickBooks Online, is really more of a rusty Swiss Army knife. It'll work for construction, and they have construction stuff. It'll work for inventory. QuickBooks Online is pulled in, and they Intuit bought Lettuce, which gives them some of that functionality, but it means that there's less opportunity for some of these other companies to integrate in, even though they're all integrating because Intuit QuickBooks Online has 600,000 users in the U.S. All right. I think that Xero is a better product for business owners. I think it's a better technology. I think they're a better company. And we only work with companies that we have direct relationships at the executive level and product level. And so we can run our business and have multiple clients, not just one business, on a tool that we can trust. And in the 3 years, we've seen 20 minutes of downtime. And that was because of an Akamai, web update. It wasn't really them. We just couldn't get to them. They weren't quite down in the 3 years, and we work insane hours, and we're always online. So we're very happy. QuickBooks Online is good. People are out there using it, and they're happy with it. And then there are people that are going through hell. We can tell you in Xero, you're not going to go through hell. Now they are releasing inventory next week, but it's for simple inventory, not for and even when they evolve it, based on my feedback, to work for more scenarios, it's not the best solution. You want a specific cloud inventory tool, and just ask me and I can send you my matrix that compares them. Let me see if I got all the key questions. So I still recommend best of breed, that you want your accounting to do a good job of counting, keeping track of bank transactions and a solid P&L and summary information, not trying to make it pull in every transaction from all of your shopping carts. That's what a cloud inventory tool is for, to pull in cost of goods sold and do more of those inventory things. So did that answer your questions? Do you have any other specific ones?
Yeah, I have one which is very specific, and it's a follow-up question. So I checked most of the inventory cloud management tools out there, and most of them are not really connecting to my cart. And don't go about recommending me moving to Shopify at this point, because I'm not going to do it. I've been trying to redesign and replatform my website for almost a year now, and it's been a long ride for me. So I'm kind of tending to stay with my card, which is CS card. So I'm currently using a solution called ECC, Webgility. I don't know if you know that.
I know them.
And they're pretty good. They're connecting to my cart and to Amazon, and they just pull all the orders and put it in QuickBooks, and they can do it both for QuickBooks Online and for Xero. Mm-hmm. But they do not provide an inventory management tool. So I wonder if there's any idea about that.
So I'm thinking about I'm thinking about non-disclosure. So I did the beta testing on the ECC Webgility integration to Xero and helped them map that out. For you to do it all in, what's going to happen is Webgility is going to start pulling in more data, and I think that they will probably have a better solution with QuickBooks Online before they do it with Xero, is that they'll start grabbing more of the inventory quantity and be able to push the inventory and leverage QuickBooks Online to provide the inventory data based on what's going on. Now, you don't get the functionality that most cloud inventory lets you sell on multiple channels and then pushes the inventory quantity up. And one of the key values of cloud inventory is if you're on 2 or 3 channels and then you have one vision of the truth of what you have in stock, okay? And if you sell, 5 on eBay and 3 on your shopping cart, that that 7 disappeared and it updates both. So that's one of the key things you'll lose with that. But to record cost of goods sold, and if you have your inventory quantities, you'll be able to use Webgility probably post-summer, let's say Q3, Q4, and then you'll have the same functionality in Xero probably towards the end of the year too, that you'll be able to use Webgility for, because ECC connects to 35 different carts to give you some better information, but you still won't get the same functionality you would get out of a pure cloud inventory solution.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And I'm sorry, guys, for being very specific. Just a follow-up question on that. So do you have any recommended inventory management tool that can connect to any cart, even mine?
What I do, send me an email. I haven't added all of them. Send me an email to scott@catchingclouds.net, and I'll send you my matrix. And then you can look to see. I've added quite a few shopping carts recently, but it's not a completely comprehensive report, but it'll show you at least the key things you want to look at, because that's what I covered earlier. I don't want to totally repeat myself. But you actually had some really good questions on your other on your posts on the forum.
Right. So first of all, thank you, and you can just go ahead and answer those nobody else wants to
Okay.
I don't want to take too much of the hangout.
So, and I want to get through these and get to as many questions. So you had a question, as a small business owner, what are the top 3 to 5 reports I should look at what frequency, and what insights and actions can you take from these reports? Which is that's one of the key things that we try to pull together, is to get accurate financials so that you can make, you have current, accurate, and actionable financial information to make the right decisions.
And I would say different people have different needs. Like, there are some people who have a ton of cash in the bank, and so they don't need to keep an eye on cash flow necessarily as closely as others. Others are like razor thin, and they got to look at that every day. So there's not a one size fits all. But I would say you definitely want to look at your income statement, your profit and loss statement. That's going to show you whether you're making money or not. You want to look at your balance sheet to see, make sure that you know how much money you've got in the bank and how much you basically need to earmark for your liabilities, whether it's sales tax liability or loans or credit cards or whatever. Those are critical.
And cash flow.
Cash flow statement, you want to see when you're looking at your income statement. I just finished a webinar on this, actually, that I was attending. They were talking about how 60% of businesses who go out of business are making money, but they go out of business because they don't have a good handle on their cash flow.
Yeah.
So they run out of money even though they're profitable when they do make money.
Yeah. So cash flow, yeah. So I agree with all that. And those are your financial ones, and depending on how accurate or current you've updated your accounting information, your financial information, you could look at that possibly daily, but weekly, and definitely every month, have the month closed out and look at it. So you're looking at things in a shorter time frame. We tend to do cash flow weekly for most of our e-commerce clients. Then you've got a number of other reports. So, and they're the things, the analytics that you're going to look at either in cloud inventory or high-end like Atika metrics, which are, what are your sales and your hits, per site. So if you look at kind of a broad thing, you have a single tool. Can you look at the Shopify ones to make sure you're getting enough web hits and enough conversions? So you can catch those things that, wait, my SEO, why did my sales drop? Wait, my SEO dropped, okay? So you want to be able to catch those things in real time. You've got a couple other things to keep an eye on are your profitability per SKU and your overall profitability to make sure that you're within the range you want to be in and that's as high as possible. To make sure that you have things that you can adjust to that could impact your sales. Because it's one thing to go away on vacation for a week and not quite pay attention and have things fall off, but you don't want to be busy buying products and other things and making assumptions about your business and not keeping an eye on your sales trends and inventory, and then inventory as well to make sure you have enough inventory on hand to supply to meet your need to continue to maintain your growth. So those would be the top ones. So cash flow, P&L, balance sheet, and then specifically on your sales per channel, and then profitability per SKU, and of course always keep an eye on your inventory. So that's 6, not 5. Is that good? Did anyone have any other follow-up questions on that piece, or was that helpful?
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And before we dive into the rest of guys, did Aaron or Matthew have any other questions before we finish up the rest?
I just wanted to jump in on one thing just the last point, just to say that one thing that I find super helpful is to look at my shipping costs and just eye them on a per order basis. Obviously, you can't look through all of them. We ship, over 100,000 packages a year, but always find that there's mistakes where, hey, we didn't realize it's going to cost us quite this much, and we end up losing money on certain products because you know what your cost of goods are, but your shipping costs, sometimes you're a little off, and it turns out when you put everything in, you're a little underwater. You're basically working for the customer for free. So
the free shipping can really that's a great point. Yeah, keeping an eye on shipping. The other thing to watch out for is certain drop shippers and other businesses they'll have sales tax nexus, and they'll add sales tax to an order where you're buying product, even though you're reselling product. So you want to watch out, especially in a drop shipping scenario, where you want to make sure you create what's called an exemption certificate. So if you have a sales tax license, you can create an exemption certificate, give it to your vendors that proves to them they don't have to collect sales tax for you, because sales tax can be even higher than the shipping cost that can burn into each individual order too, or at least impact a whole set of orders because you didn't expect to have shipping, inbound shipping, and sales tax on top of it. But that's a great point, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron, I've been doing that this last week and a half, especially after UPS changed the rules on shipping stuff, because we ship along a lot of long antennas. And it's something where I look over the financials pretty closely every month, but granularly on an order-by-order basis, just spending like a week and just hammering through orders, looking at the invoices, looking at the revenue side. We probably got our margin up 20%, which is 15 to 20% just on like spending 2 or 3 days hammering our suppliers, being like, "What? Why are you shipping this UPS? Send this out USPS." And it took a couple days, but we won't probably keep track of it closely every day going forward, but a lot of that's going to flow through for the next year, and so it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, once a year is enough to kind of get you a good ballpark, and also the one problem with it is those reports that you get from your vendor, from UPS. Post office is transparent, but UPS and FedEx, when you got to read through those 100-page PDFs that they go through, I feel like they make it intentionally difficult to understand what you're actually paying with all the surcharges and everything. Just to make this sort of analysis more difficult, so you know, hey, wait, maybe we should switch vendors on this thing. But that's my paranoia, maybe.
Well, no, that's for tools like ShipStation and Shipping Easy and those other ones. The idea is to leverage those tools to let them do the analytics and come back and give you a suggestion on the best shipping process, because it's going to do a better job. They have all those tables calculated into their products to help you make those decisions and say, don't send this one UPS. If you're sending one across the street, you never know which carrier is going to be cheaper.
Oh no, we have that all built into Ship Hero. The problem is on the back end.
Yeah.
If you go and you look at your expected cost for a given weekly billing period, and then you look at your actual bill, they never match. They always hit you with other stuff, and getting that, and they make it so hard for you to figure out why. That you need the patience of Job to go through that and figure out, wait, this is why it's more money, So
we found that
worth the effort.
We found a client where they weren't getting discounts for prepayments and went back many, many months and got a huge discount and a credit from a vendor because we looked through. It wasn't shipping, but it was they were paying credit cards and prepaying for stuff but not getting the corresponding discount. And a lot of businesses do that if you're not paying attention, those few points here and there add up, and then you, like Andrew said, you go back through it and you beat everybody up, and then just put it on your calendar to do it again in another quarter or 6 months.
Yeah, what we do is we go through and we just look at the year-over-year change in percentage on all our major line items, and just look for the one that jumped as a percentage of revenue by 10%. Packaging, something happened, something's wrong, and figure out what happened there.
No, that sounds great. Any other specific questions?
I've got one that's real specific to my company, but I don't know if I want to waste. I don't know. Let anyone else who has anyone else go first.
Aaron, do it. Do it.
I just want to know what the best way to. I know you don't like QuickBooks Enterprise, the desktop version, but if you got it, we've got people use it, and tons of people use it.
What do you want to know?
So what's the best way to connect from our cloud to people running desktop version?
Go with a certified hoster. There are a number of companies. Right Networks is one, and there are a number of other people that are licensed and certified to host QuickBooks. So they have the right infrastructure. They'll keep QuickBooks patched and up to date. They'll do backups, even though we recommend that you look at like Smart Vault as another tool to grab a full backup of it. So if you're hosting, and they'll work with their add-ons. They'll work with their add-ons.
Oh no, because these are people that are running it. I don't have access. This is not my company that's running. I'm running the cloud part. I'm not running the QuickBooks part. So they're just running it in their location, however they have it set up, and they don't want me touching it. They just want the data to flow in from with their orders and inventory updates and sales, so they can pay their reps and all that stuff.
Okay, so you have other people that want to integrate with your QuickBooks file?
No. They're hosting QuickBooks.
Oh,
They want his information to flow in there.
Okay, so There are a number of tools, and I don't work with them. There's Transaction Pro, Transactor Pro.
Yeah, I think that's right. Transaction Pro.
I think it's Transaction Pro. There are
It's TPI, Transaction Pro Importer or something
yeah.
like that.
So there's a number of tools that you can use. They would have to have a copy too, but that'll pull data out of other platforms and feed it into QuickBooks, and that you could use it to get the data out and feed it over. If you take a look at Sleater.com and search for these things, Sleater has a ton of research. We blog there, but we cover Xero. There's a ton of experts on and different tools and reviews of these tools. I also have a peer of mine that also consults and does e-commerce business, but he's very much QuickBooks focused, and he might be a good person for you to talk to look at optimizing your current process. So we might have our bias and we're clear about it, but we know lots of people in this industry. I'm happy to point you to somebody that could answer your questions and say, no, we use not WebGility but Transactor Pro, and we can get an answer along those lines. That's why I'm trying to keep a closer eye on the forum to make sure I spot any of those questions, and we'll answer ones that aren't Xero related.
Okay, yeah, that'd be helpful, because I definitely have people that they absolutely need the data into their QuickBooks. I just haven't figured out how to do it.
Okay,
So,
send me a specific set of questions, and we'll provide kind of a couple links, but I'll also give you an introduction to one of our peers.
okay, yeah, and I'm on Sleater now, and I'll look at that tool you mentioned, see what it looks like.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I think another question we had from Guy was how do you record gift certificates, which it's more of a.
We don't really have a lot of gift certificates running through our companies. I would say it depends on what kind of basis you're using for your company, whether you're cash or accrual, as to when you're going to recognize that income. So if you're a cash basis, then when you receive the income, that's when you're going to recognize it. If you're accrual, you're not going to recognize it till later on down the road. That's kind of a question for your CPA to kind of work through.
So that's the accounting. So that's the accounting side. If you're looking at the technology side, either you want it built into your shopping cart, or you want to find a third-party add-on that manages those well, that really understands that you issue them out and they have a time when they expire and that they can be used later, and you want to work with a tool that'll manage those better. Otherwise, it becomes a very manual process and ugly from there. So, Guy, hopefully that helped.
Yeah, thanks. I have it settled on my shopping cart. This is pretty basic for them. The question was more of how to register, how to record them in QuickBooks or Xero. So I'll probably talk with my CPA.
Yeah, just have them tell you record it when you either when you get the money, or the answer is going to be record it when they spend the money.
Yeah, and if it's like if you're recording it on the accrual basis, which is basically when the people who receive the gift certificate spend the money. It's going to be a little bit trickier, because then some people aren't going to cash the gift certificates, obviously. So then you have to come up with a write-off scenario and things like that. Like how much do you do you assume 5% of people aren't going to cash it or whatever? And it's a little it's kind of unique to each person's situation.
Okay.
There are a couple of, one more, I mean, you've asked about best practices for accounting and bookkeeping for e-commerce websites. I would say kind of the main thing is have a core accounting, QuickBooks Online in the cloud, or Xero, or QuickBooks desktop hosted. Set it up so that you're pulling in your bank feeds in real time, if at all possible, or daily. You want to keep your data updated. The main thing is you want to build automated processes that pull all the data in, and then preferably push a summary amount of data, the right accounting data, over to your accounting system so your financials are up to date. You don't need every possible detail there. And then capture all of your data. So we use a tool that I love called HubDoc, HUBDOC. I'll have their shirt on underneath here. You link it to all your banks and Verizon and Comcast and your insurance bills, and it pulls in all the statements for you, both the historical ones and all the new ones, and then makes them all available to you. So that's a tool to automate collecting the data. And then there's expense tools like Expensify or Tally. There are tools like Receipt Bank and others that you can capture. If you can automate the process of capturing all the data, so whether you're doing your own accounting, you have a part-time bookkeeper, or you hand a big pile of stuff to your accountant at the end of the year and say, figure it all out, the more organized you are and the more automated you are in bringing that data together on a real-time basis, then the better off you are to make decisions based on that information. I mean, it's kind of be organized and build a process. You know, this is how I do purchase orders. Even if it's only you, write down the process and go, wow, I do it in 8 steps. I wonder if I can do it in 4 steps. Okay, it's those types of things. Oops.
I have another tip too.
Sorry about that. I'd send somebody a voicemail.
The other thing is, some people think that just having credit card statements is enough to support the transaction, and the IRS, they don't want to see that. They want to see actual receipts. You can have them in digital copies, that's fine, but they want to see receipts. They don't want to see statements necessarily. So hang on to everything, and preferably if you're using Xero, you can just attach transactions directly. Like you can attach your receipts directly to each transaction. They also have like a filing system and stuff. And I think QuickBooks Online is starting to do a little bit of that. Or you can save stuff in Smart Vault or ShareFile or something like that. But like Scott said, just try and stay as organized as possible and hang on to everything to support your deductions.
All right. Any other specific questions?
Looks like we're good.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for taking out the time, and Patty too, for taking out the time to kind of chat with us today. I know accounting questions are on everyone's mind, especially now, this time of year. So yeah, I guess if no one has anything else, I think we can post this video in the forum, and if there's any additional questions there, Scott, I'll make sure you're tagged in them.
That sounds great. Yeah, happy to jump in, and if it's accounting, I'll ask Patty to jump in, but happy to point people in the right direction. I saw a few emails. I'll send out the matrix, and everybody have a great day. Hope this helped.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Good stuff.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye, Laura.
Bye, guy.